And welcome into the Thursday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. Hope everybody's off to a fabulous start to their day today. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you? What's going on?
Good morning. Doing fine. I won Jared versus Joe yesterday thanks to some fair judging. So
I think you generally speaking, most of the time have fair judging.
Nah, I don't know about that. I used to want Jared versus Joe to be on here half the time, but I realized that you're just going to give him the wins and troll me. So we'll just keep it where it is.
I would not do that.
So what you're saying is you're putting yourself out there publicly and saying Jared Stillman won a sports argument.
He won that particular sports argument.
Yeah, whatever, dude. It's fine. We don't need to get into this. We don't need to get in this so early.
Geezer, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing well. Went to the Ryman last night, fellas, and
Wow.
had a good old time. And
Who was there?
Yeah.
It was The Sacred Souls
Okay.
last night.
And what kind of music is that?
I mean, it felt more like you've heard the Black Keys, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
They kind of like a twist on that. Imagine like a little bit more soulful.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah,
The
that was the
Ryman.
best way for me to compare it. But yeah, Kristen had never been, so we went to the Ryman last night.
You want to know something
Great
about
place.
me? I am a native Nashvilleian. I've been here my entire life.
You've never
I've been
been?
inside the Ryman many times, never for a concert.
Oh my gosh,
Never been to a concert at the Ryman.
That is wild.
disgraceful.
Well, yeah, somehow Katie's been there for a bunch of concerts. I've been there for one event, David Spade. It was good. But I was like, man, this is cool. I'd love to come here to watch music, but hey, David Spade.
David Spade. How about that?
Because I missed Wu-Tang Clan because I was covering Kumar Rocker's NCAA tournament no-hitter that night.
Yeah,
I was so cool.
I've almost been to a lot of things there. Like I think Dave Chappelle showed up there one time and almost went to that and then just didn't buy the tickets. And then I was like, oh yeah, Dave Chappelle was here tonight. Should have probably gone to that. But never been to an actual event inside the Ryman Auditorium. I've been on I think I've been to like a taping of some show in there, a couple field trips there, and a tour there. But I've never been to an actual event.
It's a great place.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah,
Need to go watch
for all of you people, 93 new people every day. If you're listening right now, check out the Ryman.
Yeah, check it out. Right next to the arena down there. It's a good setup down there. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We got a lot to get into on the program today. Predators assistant coach Todd Richards will be with us at 7:30. Preds looking still for win number one tonight as Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Edmonton Oilers come to town. So we'll get into that with Todd Richards at 7:30. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports for his weekly visit at 8 o'clock. We got a lot to get into with him. With the Titans, a busy week of trades in the NFL. We will get into all that coming up in the 8 o'clock hour with Charles Robinson. Joe, I saw an interesting piece that Gentry Estes, friend of the show, put out last night at the Tennessean. And obviously there's just a ton of, it's like an avalanche almost of discussion around Will Levis right now based on what we've seen to this point in the career. And Gentry's column, it's really interesting. He makes a couple of really good points in here, but it's basically about like Will Levis and the confidence and what some of the narratives coming up about him in the draft was kind of what the Titans need right now. And his opening line is, quote, "If confidence is your thing, then have we got a quarterback for you?" He says that was the first line of an article from the 2023 NFL Scouting Combine that was posted on the league's website, and it was referring to Will Levis. And it just doesn't feel like right now we're seeing a confident player out there. And, we talked about this a lot with Kuharski yesterday in terms of, like, is he just in his own head a little bit right now? Kuharski brought up the word confused a lot, and it does feel at times that it looks that way for him out there. And my question is simply this: like, how do you get that part back if you're him? Like, because of, obviously, look, he's not an idiot. He knows that he's not played up to snuff at this point. And, I didn't particularly enjoy him getting up there after the game Sunday and talking about the interception. And, well, my shoulder was a little healthier and had more zip on the ball. I did not like that on Sunday. It's not the first time I've seen quarterbacks or other people do that, talking about injuries and in some way kind of excusing what we saw out there. But I think deep down he knows, like Brian Callahan's made no secret about it either. They gotta figure something out in the passing game because right now it's not good enough. And I just wonder, like, while things are going this poorly, how do you repair somebody's confidence? Like, is that something that can actually be done if you're Brian Callahan, Will Levis in this situation?
Well, it's certainly got to be a big focus internally. Again, and I'm operating under the assumption that the verdict isn't in, which of course Kaharski has, by the way, completely turned tail on that and admitted I was right. We'll get to that later. But
Wow.
yeah, but I mean, you can this piece by Gentry, by the way. I mean, here's a quote. If I can find it here, Levis talking about there are a couple times Sunday where I did have a couple of those quicker throws. I look back, if it would have progressed backside, I would have had something. You know, again, that's Levis making the decisions to go quick. That's the point I was making. I mean, this is him, and I think it absolutely is a thing of confidence. And go back to early in the season, we were talking about once you make these mistakes, do you regress too far the other way? I think that is some of what we're seeing. But then you're still having mistakes. So to your question, I don't know if they can really do much. I think Brian Callahan is publicly going to be as supportive as possible. You know, in that building, it's everything they can do, just like what you're going to do in a week, right? You're going to go through the film and you're going to talk through things. And do you like this play for this week? And work together on the game plan. But ultimately, he's got to go out there and do it. I think he needs, he just needs a run of positive plays. The thing about even go like the first game, he obviously made the killer mistake, and in the second half of that game, especially, he was really running for his life with the pass rush of the Bears and bad protection. But, I think he was that confident guy then. And really, they had a couple great drives in the first half. A lot of it was running, but still really mixed in some good passing there too. It looked like what you thought it would look like. It's probably the mistakes more than anything that have gotten so much attention that have affected his confidence, but just it seems like everything now is just a struggle for him.
Yeah, the interception on Sunday, I don't know if hesitance is the right word, but I mean, we talked about it. You can see, you can watch it on the replay. Like he's sitting there just staring Ridley down. He's patting the ball, and it takes forever for him to make the decision to let the ball go. By the time he does, I mean, the ball it has no chance. And I just wonder how much of that is just him second guessing and not trusting what he's seeing out there. And because the weird part about that is I think there are plays where you see that, and then there's the flip side of that, Joe, where he's wanting to get the ball out as quickly as humanly possible. Like he got the ball out quicker than any quarterback in the league on Sunday,
right.
Which sometimes that can be a good thing. I think sometimes, particularly when your protection was better on Sunday, which it was, like you got to let some of the routes develop.
Right.
So
you're sacrificing opportunities.
Exactly. So you got on one hand, you're getting the ball out so quick, and then I think there are other times where you're just holding on to it too long and not trusting what you're seeing out there. And I don't have like an exact play-by-play breakdown of how often both of those things are happening, but it just seems like that's part of the reason he's totally out of sync out there.
Yeah, no, I think for sure we talked. I do have to make the comparison just because, and now this is different because you're talking about a 19-year-old in the second year of college, but you're seeing it with Nico Iamaleava right now, right? Is just waiting. Is he open? Okay, I'm going to throw it now. It's just like you obviously in the NFL you can't operate that way.
Yeah.
So it's like the worst of both worlds. You have the sometimes just getting it out, just check down too quickly and missing opportunities. And then you have an opportunity and you're so hesitant that it turns into the huge pick anyway, It's just like all discombobulated. So I do think confidence is probably as much as anything the issue right now. I mean, it's confidence that's been impacted by poor performance. I don't know a way other than just you keep giving him opportunities. I mean, this is why I think you do for the foreseeable future. I mean, we'll see what that means. And then you hope that he gets hot and there's just something different. I mean, like, again, we hope so too, just because so
I'd like to talk about something else.
Yeah. Like just something, complain about like the middle linebacker play next week or something, but yeah, how do you do that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's not easy.
To me, it just kind of, this is when it gets into, we talk about this sometimes, how much blame goes on coaching, how much doesn't. And it's professional sports in the NFL. So yeah, eventually the coach falls on the sword for a lot of things. But this is one of those things. It's like, well, some of this just comes down to the player. Like, there's only so much a coach can do to help your confidence while you're out there. And again, that's part of what makes the Levis thing so confounding, is because I do think, based on what Brian Callahan has said, quite frankly, based on a lot of things that Will Levis has said and talked about in the offseason and during the weeks in some of these games, like I think the right coaching points are there, right? Like they go over the information, they attempt to make some of the adjustments. And one of the questions we brought up with Levis all year long is, I mean, you do all those things, and then some of the same things happen in these games. Some players, we've seen this in all sports, just have a tough time taking either what they've seen in the film room, what they've gone over on the practice field, and when it's an actual game setting live and you've got people running around trying to take your head off, sometimes it's just hard to translate, and sometimes people just can't do it. And I don't know what that means for him.
And that's where, and you've correctly made the point, and a lot others have too, like as we compare Levis, or we talk about Levis, yes, you naturally go back to last year, but what about last year? And you're absolutely right that, it's one great game and one great comeback, but like confidence, certainly, right? Like it
did
was
not
a
lack
different
for that.
guy. Yeah, he came out there and let it rip, man. And again, made some tremendous throws. And I thought even like that Pittsburgh game is another game where it's like, wow, he made some gutsy throws in that game and seemed to really be in command. Missed some too and didn't get it done at the end and all that stuff. But there was a totally different level of confidence. And again, I just think it's also, there was a totally different level of pressure. He was, hey, let's see what you can do, rookie. And now it's like, well, here's your opportunity to make generational money and be the superstar quarterback you've always wanted to be. Or, does Mason Rudolph replace you by Thanksgiving?
Right. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll take your thoughts on Will Levis. Also, the Robby and Rexrode fan base misery index coming up next. Anybody worse off than Titans fans right now in the National Football League? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Check out Nashville's best deal this week. It's Staley's Chicago Italian Dining right here in Nashville. One of the best kept secrets in Nashville, Staley's Chicago Italian Dining brings amazing Italian food to the South, including original Italian beef sandwiches, Vienna Chicago-style hot dogs, and the best gyros south of Chicago. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals. Get half off a $20 gift card while supplies last. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jared from Spring Hill says, I am excited to see all the other drama also. That locker room is sus, according to the youth. Sus.
Wait, what?
Is Jared from Spring Hill an insider? We have some suspect activity going on in the Titans locker room.
Yeah, well, but what? Yeah, what do you mean by sus? I do know what it means. I mean, it means suspect.
Oh, it does.
But yeah, but that can still mean different things for you. So I need to know. I'm excited to see all the other drama. I don't know. I don't know about that. I do know that JC in Goodlettsville, I just want to read this real quick. He says, with any competent judging, Joe never loses to Jared. I'm to be thanked for Vandy beating Kentucky. Couldn't be much worse of a take, and it's very indicative of Jared. Thank you, JC. Appreciate you. Good point.
Did he say that? That's funny.
Yeah, he's right there.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. I'm going to write in all caps. Thank you, JC. I love you. Yesterday, the text line was getting after me. When Kaharski gets in here, man.
His minions get on the text line?
Yeah, it's a little, but that's all right. I'll read his apology later.
I look forward to that. I got one texter that says, I do put blame on Callahan a little bit. I don't think Callahan is making the system to Will Levis' strength. He's trying to make Levis into Joe Burrow and stay in the pocket, throw intermediate passes, which he is not. He's more of a roll out of the pocket, throw a deep style of quarterback. It's from an unnamed texter.
I get the narrative. It's a very popular narrative. Again, it goes to the Kaharski, like the ball came out fast, the short passes. It must be them trying to fit the square peg in the round hole. I don't really buy that too much. First of all, like you have to be able you do have to be able to check down. You do have to be able to be accurate, short and intermediate. Like you have to have that. You can't just throw bombs, right? So I don't think he's trying to make him. I mean, I think they've tried to go downfield. They did have, again, they had the game where you had the touchdown, you had the drop. So Ridley had the touchdown. He also had the drop. Those were both really good deep throws. And then you had the Burks deep shot. That's a pick that should have been a catch. So I know that's one example of one game, but I don't think, I think that they will try to go downfield. You could say they could try more. I just think it's Levis not playing well. I just, like I keep coming back to that. Like he can play better. I promise you when they go through the film and like other people, there's all these people who go through film and, you can find it on the X if you want, but
you can.
Like they go through it. It's like, well, here was one downfield you could have done. Here's one. I mean, like there are plays there to be made.
Dave in Big Rock on the text line says, what do you guys think of the Ridley locker room comments about getting the ball? We had a lot of questions about that this week. I think they got to figure out a way to get in the ball. And when they get in the ball, he's got to find out a way to catch it. That's what I think about it. Like, could the Titans do a better job early in games of, making him the primary on some of these plays and getting him the football? Yeah, I think they could. When the ball is thrown his way in the fourth quarter over the middle and he drops it, he loses a little bit of the sympathy from me with the complaining after the game. When the ball's thrown your way, start catching them every time. And then when you do that, we can start getting to the putting blame on everybody else for not getting you the ball more.
Yeah. And again, that one play where he had it, that was a big play. That puts him close to midfield on what should have been a drive to tie or go ahead. That's a big play that he forfeited because he just couldn't hold on to the ball after he had 2 steps with it and then got it jarred loose. So I'm with you. I get it. I think that was just a frustration thing with him, in the moment. And I'm sure it's got to be frustrating for anybody who has 8 targets and has no catches. And yeah, some of them were just poorly thrown ball.
Right.
Yeah. Like one of those quote unquote targets was like one of them was a pick, but one of them was also the should have been picked. Those are, there's nothing he can do on those. So I get that frustration there. But yes, he's got to, like, when you're brought in and paid like this to be what you're supposed to be, you have to make every play you can possibly make.
So
none.
Where do Titans fans rank right now on the index that we're about to create here live on the show, the Robby and Rexrode NFL misery fan pain index. We got to come up with a shorter name than that. But that's what I'm calling it right now, the pain index for the Robby and Rexrode NFL fans. I can't imagine there's too many that are below where Titans fans are right now in terms of just misery watching your football team every week. There are a couple that come to mind that are in the same ballpark for sure. But where do you think Titans fans rank right now on the Robby and Rexrode misery index?
So I ranked my top 5 most miserable fan bases in the NFL,
Okay.
and I have the Titans 4th.
Okay.
So some people would be like, wow, okay. But here's how I rank them. First of all, number 1 to me easily is Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns fans, they thought they had an answer. They were all willing to overlook all the weird crap from Deshaun Watson because he was going to be a great quarterback. And they're stuck with him. They're terrible. They're selling parts. It's just, obviously, ownership is a problem. There's just no, and Baker Mayfield's down there doing great things with the any possible area of misery for a fan base. Like, they check all the boxes.
It's hard to argue that.
It's amazing. And of course, then you just add in the long suffering thing. For a long time, the Cleveland Browns and Detroit Lions were kind of like kissing cousins. In the 50s they were great, and then there's both garbage, and now they even have to watch the Lions be good. It's just
really is every conceivable angle for
Yeah.
a Browns fan is just terrible, right?
the rest of their division's great.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Steelers are good this it's something else. My number 2 is Carolina because they drafted the rookie, and now they've given up on him. I think the big thing with them is, certainly here there are questions, and questions about the ownership here and decision making and all that stuff. But there, it's like you have one of the most. I mean, he's the new Daniel Snyder, but even more of a jerk. It's bad. And so with him clearly putting his fat fingers on everything, there's no chance. It's so if you're a Carolina Panthers, you're watching McCaffrey. Hey, great trade there, Christian McCaffrey, and you have no answer at quarterback. It's a bad deal. Now, this is where it gets close for me, Robby. I put the Jags fans a tick ahead of Titans fans in misery.
Okay.
Titans fans may argue with me, but my reasoning is that they are Trevor Lawrence is who they've paid. It's who they've got. And it's underwhelming. Now, he has recently played better. He played better against the Colts, but it's just not great. A coaching change is probably coming. And so even though with the Titans, who I put 4th, obviously it's very rough right now on a lot of fronts too. I mean, they have an easier out to go get back into the wandering of the desert trying to find a quarterback. I mean, the Jags don't. Right. That's my distinction. And then my 5th is the Cowboys. I mean, yeah, they're just bad. The Lions beat them 47-9. Jerry Jones out flipping out on radio hosts. They just where's the pathway for that team to do anything close to what it hopes to do?
That's a great point. I would also add, and I don't know exactly where in there, because you could argue that this week makes it better because now there's new hope with Devontae Adams coming in. But Jets fans being at 2-4 with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, and you thinking that he's solving everything, and then you're now, I think, realizing that franchise is just not good and not well run. Look, I'm interested to see the Adams things too, which is probably why they don't involve.
That's why they didn't make my
why
list.
they don't. Yeah, they don't belong in this discussion right now, because maybe that is just going to be something that unlocks them. But basically, until I see them go out there and actually do it and win, I'm going to be skeptical of it. I'm looking back on some of my preseason picks, and the Jets winning that division may be the dumbest thing I've ever said.
Yeah, well, they would absolutely qualify, but now there's this hope. And look, I gotta say, as underwhelming as Aaron Rodgers has been, Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams both.
It's a pretty good combo.
I mean, you got Todd Downing calling plays. Get excited,
I mean,
Jets Nation. No, they would be.
Todd Downing's fired up a couple times the other night on
was.
that sideline.
Aaron seemed to be nice and actually speaking to him and
He
not
did.
pushing him. That was good. Yeah, I had other contenders like the Pats, but now they have Drake May, and there's hope. I mean, even the Raiders. It's so stupid, but Tom Brady bought part of the team. Did you see that Mark Davis oh yeah, we're gonna have him select and train our quarterbacks?
I did
that's
see
great.
That. I saw him walk into the facility yesterday too, And it was like that, when the Titans hired Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan, like every employee's just lined up out there, and
boy.
it's like Brady. Woo!
God.
Good stuff.
That's
I
great.
look forward to that.
I think Dolphins and Giants also. I think those fans have a case.
Yeah. There's a lot of miserable fan bases in the NFL right now. from what
Yeah.
I'm gathering.
See, misery loves company. Feel better, Titans fans.
615-737-1025. Where do the Titans belong on the Robby and Rexrode NFL Fan Misery Index? How miserable are you? We got a couple of those texted in already. We'll get to some of those coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. We are broadcasting from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, the fan misery index that we've now created here on the Robby and Rexrode program.
Some strong comments.
Some very strong comments. Rexrode's got you at the number 4 most miserable team in the NFL right now. Cody on the text line says, we traded A.J. Brown for Traylon Burks and Malik Willis, then let Henry walk, and fired our best coach in franchise history. Nobody has it worse than the Titans. I hate it here. It was from Cody on the text line.
That's strong. I would also, Cody, you should have added, and then Malik Willis came in here and beat you.
There is that.
I mean, that deserved to be in that, but good text.
Craig says, I'm getting on a plane this evening to fly to Buffalo for the game. My level of misery has Kathy Bates getting her hammer ready, which is just a fantastic reference.
Oh,
what a movie that is.
Goodness.
Not for the faint of heart.
That's very good. So you're getting on a plane on Thursday. Wow. So you're going to spend
big weekend in Buffalo.
Big weekend in Buffalo. Hopefully, look, I like Buffalo. I just don't like it after a certain point and for about 5 straight months. So hopefully it'll be good. It'll be good to you. Yeah. I mean, it sucks here. Relative to what we like.
I have seen a snowy game in October for the Tennessee Titans on the road in New England, where they got beat 59-0.
59-0 game.
Yes.
God, that's right. There was. Oh God, that was in October.
It's in October.
Awful.
I think it was late October, but it was in October.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be fine this weekend in Buffalo. Mid-60s.
Okay,
all
good. All right, so
it's
enjoy
summer day up there.
Enjoy Buffalo, and who knows? The NFL. Crazy stuff happens.
Liam says, for the first time in my 39 years of fandom of this franchise, and he just sent another text, so this text went away. I have no plans to watch the game Sunday. I'll check the score occasionally. We are bereft of hope. It's lethal to combine bad with boring. This is from Liam on the text line.
And then I want to add to his next text. That's some strong stuff, Liam. He's then says, my kids don't even want to watch anymore. They occasionally walk by the TV. I can see in their faces they just feel bad for me. Like, why are you hurting yourself, Dad?
That sounds like you trying to convince your family members over the years to not watch the Detroit Lions. It's now paying off for them, but for years that was not the case.
Well, it's the funny thing is you go back 3 years. And Brennan, now my now senior, who just got accepted to Michigan State last night. By the way. Congrats, Brennan.
Way to go, Brennan.
He got season tickets to, got him upper deck, 2 tickets. So he and a friend could go to the 21 season. And I was like, this is perfect. He has kind of become a Titans fan over the years. He really, he got into Derrick Henry. I'm like, it's working. I'm switching him from Lions fandom to Titans fan. It was working.
Yeah.
And now it's like, what am I going to say to him? Now his Lions are just so amazing. And it's like, I can't sit here and argue that you should be following the Titans now, man. Titans blew it. They had I think it was happening. I mean, he was excited on that day when they took on the Bengals in the playoffs.
Yes.
A lot of people were. I know. Sorry to bring it up.
Was that the last? That wasn't the last one. I mean, they did start off the next season, 7-3?
Yes.
So wasn't the last time you felt great, but
great as the 1 seed, and you got 2 wins at home to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. That was the beginning of the end, I think.
Yeah.
LD from McMinnville says, as a Titans fan, I'm stuck in a state of perpetual misery. Herbert McEwen giving the nice comparison of a prostate exam to being a Titans fan. There's that going on.
More
right
talk now. of people with big fingers.
Yes.
David Tepper, your doctor.
Some very descriptive comments on the text line right now. The point of which is all to bring it home to this. Titans fans are in a bad spot right now. And I think the text from Liam hits it perfectly from this standpoint. It's one thing to be bad, and we've talked about this a lot. It's one thing to be bad. It's another thing to be bad and at times just brutal to watch. And it feels like that combo has been around here for basically 2 years at this point of not only are they not good, which by itself over the long haul will just absolutely eviscerate your fan base. But when you combine that with, the 17 point per game weekly output that we've seen over the last couple of years here, that's when it becomes borderline unbearable for a Titans fan.
Well, it's really, I mean, this is the third year, right? And this is the third straight year of it. Despite a totally different offense and coach and all that stuff. I mean, that's way too long to ask fans to watch just unwatchable offensive football in a league that now, as people have pointed out, gotten in arguments on this. Yes, defenses are definitely winning more this year. The cyclical nature of the game, the defenses are winning more. There's more ugly scores, but still, there's plenty of teams that are scoring a lot of points and actually running fun offenses to watch. Those Lions are, they have like a trick play for every one of their offensive linemen, and all of them are at least close to scoring touchdowns.
It was fun to watch the other day. Brian says, it's so bad that I look more forward to the Monday morning talk of how bad they were instead of the game itself. You guys are where we go for healing. It's from Brian on the text line. We're glad that we can be here for Titans fans this year. Well, look, we've talked about this week, and this goes back to the quarterback discussion. I mean, there is going to reach a point, and quite frankly, I think I may already be there, where like I just get tired of sitting here continually bashing Will Levis and the way that he plays. It would be nice for them to go out and, even if you lose on Sunday, maybe have a surprise performance offensively where it's like, hey, did you see the Titans offense? I know they gave up 38 on the other side of the ball, but they scored 31 and they lost. How about that?
Yeah. No, for sure. As a human being, like last game, and even like Levis' presser yesterday, it's hard to watch people struggle. Again, I'm not going to shed a tear for like professional athletes or anything like that. Get paid a ton of money, and that's why we pick at them like this all day long. But it's you can tell that he's struggling with this, right? Yeah. And so it would be refreshing to see at least like some good plays. And that is where it's like it is on him ultimately. It's like there are going to be plays to be made Sunday, and he has to see the field and make them. But it is a big deal in that building too, I'm sure, to try to reconstruct some confidence.
Dustin from Hopkinsville says, I usually start my yard work around 2:00 on Sundays. I know better than to get excited when we get the lead. It's like, 2:00's rolled around. Let's just avoid some of this disappointment for the last hour, 15 minutes of this game. Go ahead and get started out there cutting the grass.
How about the flip around of Eli from Smyrna? At least Vanderbilt plays Saturday, so my misery does have an endpoint. Vanderbilt is a source of joy.
Think about uttering those words before the year. But he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Titans are not necessarily a game that I look forward to watching on a weekly basis. I do look forward to watching Vanderbilt right now in that offense.
Yeah.
Think about uttering those words before the year.
Unnamed texter. Being a Titans fan is like being on a merry-go-round, except the merry-go-round is on fire.
Oh, man. Terrell says, it's like after fussing at your kid and you think they got it, and then bam, they did it again. This is from Terrell on the text line.
So Alex Montreal said the worst season of his life was to become an Oilers fan in 1989. Look, this has been obviously a long-suffering franchise. One Super Bowl is not great, but there are worse situations.
There are. Like
the Cleveland Browns. Like you can't, like, I'm sorry, but you guys can't compete with the Cleveland Browns.
Yes.
You can't.
It's hard to compete with that right now.
They are absolutely the champions.
With an absolute dumpster fire of a history, particularly in recent memory. This is like, they've had certainly worse rosters than they've got right now. But this one's pretty near the top of the list for Browns fans. It's got to be of
incredible.
The money you've doled out to this quarterback, how bad he is. The fact that I think you have a pretty darn good head coach is ultimately probably going to end up paying the price for this, and Kevin Stefanski. Like it's really bad.
You have a lot of talent.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet still it's absolute cheeks. Yeah.
Yep.
Real quick, I did list my giddiest fan base. Want to see what you think real quick.
Okay.
In order. Washington Commanders. Some of this it's like the Coach of the Year award, right? If you've been bad for so long, but they have their guy, and it's been so long since they've been anything but a joke, right? Yep. I got the Bills second because of the way they're playing, and now they had Amari. I got the Bears third because Caleb looks pretty good. Then I go Chiefs just because it's like the spoiled-ass Chiefs fans. And I go Ravens after that because Derrick Henry looks great, and like they got to feel like they have a chance to. That's my 5.
Yeah, it's pretty good. 615-737-1025. our phone number. We'll have the best and worst things in sports coming up next. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week, now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst.
You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself. Believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go.
It is that time of the week, time for the best and worst things in sports. We'll take your best things, your worst things for this week in sports on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, kick us off with your best and worst things in the world of sports.
What the heck, man?
All right, Kuharski, get that microphone
mic
figured out
needs
over there.
an exorcism. Speaking of the exorcist, I'll start with my worst. Baseball's dead to me again. But it was an incredible run for the Detroit Tigers. I'm wearing my old English tee today. Tarek Skubal is an incredible pitcher. You know, he gives up the grand slam to lose Game 5 at Cleveland, unfortunately. And now the Guardians are going to go out and lose to the Yankees. Great job, Cleveland. Oh, more great Cleveland sports for everybody. I'd like the Guardians to win, but they're not going to. It was an incredible run. Heartbreaking for them to lose. That's my worst in sports. Baseball, whatever.
My condolences.
I feel bad for TD too because I think he went to that game last night and the Dodgers beat the Mets. So, but he did get to see a Shohei Ohtani homer.
He
So
did.
hopefully there's some solace in that. My best is that I destroyed Paul Kuharski and all of you yesterday on the text line who got on there and were like, Paul's mad. Yeah. Let me read this from Paul. He sent this to me. He wrote this. Okay.
Okay.
While play calls may be asked for Levis pushed it downfield, he's become gun shy. He seems reluctant to do it, probably for fear of big mistakes. The case has been made to me, effectively, that my recent piece suggesting the Titans' use of Levis suggests they have a verdict on him was flawed, and that he's deciding where to throw it, and he's not necessarily throwing it where they want him to. Much of the film from the Colts loss shows open people in intermediate areas being missed, often because Levis is late, end quote. Thank you, Paul. Now, next week, and we will show appreciation for Paul, and I won't, you come in whenever you want to come in, buddy. But you better come in here and get on this microphone and say the same stuff. You knew I was going to read it on the air. All of you on the text line, I'll accept your apologies now. I'm going to be looking at the text line right now and waiting for you. Thank you.
Make it out to Joseph Rexrode.
That's
on
right.
The text line.
Yes. Make it out to cash.
Nick Keys are your best and worst things in the world of sports.
Yeah, sitting up in the press box on Tuesday night, right before the Predators played, the Columbus Blue Jackets had their first home game of the season, and they decided to honor Johnny Gaudreau by not putting anyone at the left wing spot. So I thought that was a really cool way to be classy and to show honor to him. So that's my best in sports.
Yeah, we were talking about that off the air yesterday. They for 13 seconds let the time run off the clock, didn't have anybody at left wing, and there was a really good ceremony that they did before the game. I have no idea how Columbus played the game after that. They did. They ended up losing to Florida 4-3. A cool goal by Sean Monahan, who was his best friend basically, and put the puck in the net, pointed up to the banner. It was really cool, but that was a very emotional scene on
Very
Tuesday.
much so. So we'll see how they continue to do up there in Columbus. But I was at a Halloween party this weekend, and the worst in sports had to be sitting around the TV and watching the Tennessee Volunteers try to win in regulation. I could not believe that game ended that way whatsoever. Dylan Sampson had a great game. I mean, he scored all the touchdowns, but that just can't happen week after week, Robbie. So, but if you want to elaborate further, go ahead. But those are my best.
Well, I do have
things.
a Vols thing to get to for my worst in sports. I'll get to that here in a minute. I want to start with the best. The Heisman Trophy odds are out. Ashton Genty is number 1 on the list. I just want to read off his numbers. He's got 126 carries on the year, 1,248 yards, 17 touchdowns. He's averaging 9.9 yards per carry. Let me read that again. 9.9 yards per carry right now. His rushing totals just quickly this year. 192 against Oregon, 127 against, I have no idea who that is, Presbyterian, I guess. 259 against Washington State, 186 against Utah State, and then last week against Hawaii ran for 217 yards. The guy's unbelievable.
And he's set 2 second halves of games completely.
Yes.
So he really hasn't played he's played a game less than it says. He's absurd right now. He's, I think, the leader in the clubhouse. If you watch, the highlights are more impressive than the numbers you just.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be, I actually think where did Bijan Robinson go? 7th?
Yes. to Atlanta.
You know, it depends on need, but he's going to go higher. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's crazy. But the numbers are just insane.
Yeah, absurd.
My worst thing in sports, Keenan Peely going down with the ACL injury just sucks. And look, I know you'd make the jokes that he's been in college football forever, which he has. And, you know, we've talked about that in his age. But he was playing really, really good football for Tennessee. I think he's clearly really important in that locker room, the leader on the defense. And to see him go down, I saw when he got up and went on the sideline, you had the initial hope because he was walking off on his own power. But you kind of saw when he got over to the sideline and how emotional he was that it probably wasn't good. You had Josh Heupel basically go on this big speech about how important he is after the game. And then it came out Monday that he tore the ACL. Just tough to see for Keenan Peely.
That's a killer. Yeah. No, he's been playing just as much talent as they have up front, a lot of different guys up there. The way he was flying around, and like you said, leading that defense. I think one of the leaders of the team. You look at the other side of the ball. I mean, Nico is a young QB trying to find his way, and so Cooper May's the leader, but I think Keenan Peely might be as much a leader as that team has.
Yeah. One texter says the best is Army and Navy in football, both top 25 teams.
Heck yeah.
The worst, Preds looking pretty rough to start the season. How about that? I mean, the Army-Navy game this year could be unbelievable at the end of the year.
For a playoff spot.
It could be for a play, which is kind of because think about when that game happens, right? Like it's the last
at the
one.
very end. Yeah.
Like it could be pretty wild how that could shake out this year.
They are legit. I mean, Navy Notre Dame is
like
that this
next
week?
It's next week.
Next week
because it's possibly. I mean, that could be a possible game day spot over Vanderbilt, Texas.
Yeah.
Although I did see an interview with Reese Davis, who was like, he didn't say where they were going, but he was asked, and I can't remember where it was, so I apologize where this interview took place. But he was asked about like Vanderbilt, Texas. Could it be a possibility? He was like, yeah, it's on our list. And he's like, the easy one would be Notre Dame and Navy, but it's not on campus, and we traditionally like to be on campus. So I don't know. Interested to see how that
That's an
plays
interesting
out.
point because you're not gonna have the typical crowd.
No.
And I mean, I would imagine these Vandy folks, they're like selling out their road allotments for
They
games
are
now.
Yeah.
So they're excited, man.
They should be.
Come on to Nashville.
615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. Speaking of the Vols, need a vibe check from Vols fans heading into the Bama game. I'm speaking for myself, Joe. I've not seen a lot of excitement from Tennessee fans heading into this game. And I think I know why, but we'll get into that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. Predators assistant coach Todd Richards will be with us at 7:30. Preds taking on the Edmonton Oilers tonight. Got some more thoughts on that coming up here in just a few minutes, and we will get to Todd Richards at 7:30. So looking forward to that. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports will be with us at 8 o'clock for his weekly visit. We'll get into all things Titans and NFL with him. Joe, a massive game coming up on Saturday at Neyland Stadium, the third Saturday in October, Tennessee, Alabama, as a part of what is going to be an incredible weekend of college football, highlighted by Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia and Texas coming up this weekend. Now, I said it in the last segment. It's felt a little weird this week because, generally speaking, even last year, obviously after Tennessee had beaten Alabama the year before, there was a ton of excitement for this game. And I'm not saying there's not excitement for this game because, look, it's going to be sold out. There's a waiting list. Tennessee's doing the orange out and all this other stuff. It's going to be a great environment. I do sense a little bit of I don't know if uneasiness is the right word, really from both fan bases heading into this, simply because of how both these teams have looked the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, you had Vanderbilt just absolutely take down Alabama from start to finish in that game, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. They get the win, the big upset, and Alabama was expected to come back the next week and just throttle South Carolina. And if you watch that game, number one, they're lucky to have won. There were some plays that were there to be made by South Carolina that they just didn't make toward the end of that game where they could have won that game legitimately. So it's a struggle win for Alabama following up the loss to Vanderbilt. And then on the Tennessee side, that same night, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. You go to Arkansas, have an absolute stinker, lose that game. Everybody thought you'd dominate Florida coming back home, and you were lucky to win that game against the Gators. So it's 2 weeks in a row for both of these teams where, quite frankly, they just not look very good. And I think neither fan base really has any idea what to expect heading into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't either. I really don't. We've been going through David Ubben has a story with some coaches talking about both teams. One of the most interesting things in that, which I didn't realize, Bama in Brugler's top 50, there's no Bama players.
That is interesting.
That is, that's so
that
weird.
happened.
Right. It's been a long time, I would think. Now they have a lot of good players. I think Milroe's become a guy who I think could be a prominent draft pick, and could, be a Heisman candidate and all that stuff. And he's a really good player. So I feel confident in him and in Ryan Williams and in overall a good offense. But I feel confident the Vols are going to stop the run. So I think the Vols are going to make them one-dimensional. The problem is that Milroe is such a big part of the run game. That's a great matchup, right? Yep. Even though with Peely out, hurts Tennessee for sure, but I think that's a great matchup.
And by the way, I think the combo there probably now is going to be Arion Carter and T-Lander, would be my guess.
Yeah, and that's still good, talented, and Carter is a tremendous rising talent without question. I think they need him to he's young, but they need him to kind of emerge even more, as a leader probably. But then the other side, the other matchup is just, I don't know, man. Tennessee's offense is a mess to me right now. And Alabama's defense that's where I think it's probably the most hard thing to figure out about these teams, is that I still feel like Alabama's defense is talented and pretty good, and certainly good enough the way Tennessee's been playing offense to get a lot of stops there.
Yep.
Like this piece, there's a coach who predicted a shootout. I don't think we're seeing a shootout. Do you?
I it's hard to get there based on what Tennessee's offenses look like and the way that Tennessee's defense is played. Now, it's college football, so I guess, anything can happen. And maybe you dial up a couple things in this game if you're Heupel that you just haven't called.
Yeah, if you hit a couple deep shots and there's 2 quick touchdowns, and I guess
maybe
the score gets higher than I think. But right now, I'd bet the under. I don't even know what it is, but I'd bet it.
I would too. It's a really interesting game. Now, you brought up the Ubben piece at The Athletic. There's one coach, I don't know who Ubben's talking to here, but says this about Tennessee, quote, "They're probably one of the best football teams I've seen in the last 10 years, honestly. This is a team that could win the national championship. They've got enough pieces. I was surprised they lost to Arkansas, but it's hard to go undefeated. might be the best thing that's ever happened to him. This is from an unnamed coach about Tennessee.
So this brings to mind like why we should never have coaches like vote in the polls. I mean, they're so absorbed with their own stuff, right?
Right.
I mean, it's good to get, especially coaches who've seen them on the field, things like that. It's good to get these perspectives. But that coach, so basically, coach, you have not watched them since the Arkansas game, right? Like, because there's no way if you've watched this team the last 2 weeks, you think it's one of the best teams of the last 10 years.
10 years, yeah, that's a heck of a statement that he's made there. So I don't know who that is, but I just found that to be pretty interesting.
I will say it, but before recent games, I thought Tennessee might have an insanely good team.
Sure.
You know,
Well,
I thought
look,
the offense was going to be great along with the defense.
I mean,
yeah.
Ubben points this out, and it's true. You know, as much as I keep whining about the 12-team playoff, winning this game
love it.
is going to be in pretty good spot, right? Like, I know Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, Tennessee lost to Arkansas, but like if Tennessee wins, they're going to be in a really good spot for the college football playoff as they move forward here. Now they got to take care of the rest of their business. Same thing with Alabama, though. Like if they win this game, even though they lost to Vanderbilt, which by the way may end up looking like a decent loss at the end of the year,
yeah,
like they're going to be in a good spot to make the playoff if they win this game. So it's such a fascinating game to me. Number one, because of the stakes. Like it's when Tennessee and Alabama are both good. We haven't seen that a whole lot over the last 20 years, but it makes it fun when both of them are really good. And also, I have no idea what to expect in this game. I have no clue what this game's going to look like on Saturday.
Yeah, no, it's a very different game, obviously, than I thought. I mean, a few weeks ago, I was like, this is going to be one of the games of the year.
Yeah.
And you know, it was going to be a double because obviously we have Texas, Georgia this weekend. So it's like 2 games of the year on the same day. And now it is more like it's not totally an elimination game, but the loser
is in a rough
They
spot.
both have tough stuff ahead. And yeah, I don't like the loser's chances at all. The winner, I like the winner's chances quite a bit. So, I mean, it's a huge game. And again, it's just such a hard one to pin down what might happen. It's college football is unpredictable anyway, but this one I think is really unpredictable.
By the way, the over-under 56.5. 56.5 in this game. I've had some people ask this week, like how big of a favorite was Alabama 2 years ago when Tennessee beat them at home? I think they were 8.5, if I remember correctly.
Big?
Yeah, I think it started 8.5. It may have gotten down to like 6.5, 5.5, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Right now, Alabama a 2.5-point favorite against Tennessee at Neyland on Saturday.
Yeah, interesting. By the way, Grover says that quote was from Heupel. This is maybe the best coach team I've ever seen.
It does not specify which coach it was.
All of their failures are about players, not coaching. The coaching is amazing.
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Nate. Nate, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
What's up, guys? Even before the Tennessee game last weekend, after watching Alabama's piss-poor defense, I thought with the caveat of what Tennessee would do on offense, I thought this game this weekend could easily get into the 60s or 80s. Now I don't even know if we're going to get to the 50s or even 40s this weekend. The defense, it's going to be such a bad game, I think. Watching both teams this past weekend, if they play like they have been, it's going to be tough to watch.
Yep, thanks for calling, Nate. I understand the thought process there. I really do. Having said that, like we've all watched college football a long time, and sometimes, especially in rivalry games like this, the way you think a game's going to play out, the way it actually plays out, end up being two very different things.
Yeah,
in the weekend.
And again, I think it could be a good game. I think it's possible to have a good 20-17 game. That's what I think it'll be something like 24-20 or something like that. But yeah, Milroe could rip off an 80-yarder, and hit Ryan Williams, and he could like flip over 2 people. And I mean, Ryan Williams is worth the price of admission anyway. And like there are going to be plays for Nico to make. He's got to make them. Yeah. So we'll see. It's a fascinating game.
I mean, the big question to me on offense, besides Nico, which is the obvious, can Tennessee block? Can Tennessee block Alabama? If they can, then I think they're going to have a chance to win the game. If they can't, they may get blown off the field on Saturday. That's kind of the way I view it.
Yeah. I mean, how much do they worry about just pass protection against a 4-man rush and just giving him that time?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Dylan Sampson, I mean, I expect him to have a good game, but are they consistently going to be able to run it?
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take your thoughts on Tennessee and Alabama. Also, some interesting comments yesterday from Andrew Burnett on the Predators' struggles to this point. We'll get into that coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I got some tickets to give away to see the Predators take on the Detroit Red Wings coming up on Saturday at Bridgestone Arena. Be caller number 5, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Caller number 5 will win a pair of tickets to see the Preds take on the Red Wings coming up Saturday at Bridgestone Arena. We will get into the Preds momentarily here on the program. A couple of your thoughts to get to on Tennessee and Alabama. First, Remington on the text line. Is it weird that I'm more confident in Tennessee beating Bama than I was for them going to Arkansas? Tennessee hadn't lost a home game to a team not named Georgia since October 16th of 2021. Ole Miss in the mustard game. Home field doesn't always make a difference, but I think it does in Knoxville. This is from Remington on the text line.
That is a good point. It's been Georgia. Georgia's the only team that's been able to go in there and get it done. So, look, home field should matter. Home field should absolutely help Tennessee on Saturday. You know, Milroe has not. I mean, Milroe's faced tough environments, but that place is about as good as it can get. About as good as it gets in college football when it's at its best. I mean, I haven't seen better than Neyland Stadium. So that matters for sure. But is it weird? A little bit. A little weird, Remington.
Yeah, it is a little weird. But I understand the thought process. I mean, look, there's no doubt. As much as they've looked kind of like crap on offense the last 2 weeks, once that game gets going, we know what the environment's going to be there. Like, it's going to be raucous. It's going to be wild. And I do think that Tennessee can feed off that. Now, it was that way against Florida too, right? Like, there was a lot of excitement for that game. And the offense just kind of took the air out of the place with how they were playing. You know, they were marching right down the field the first drive, and then Nico just drops the ball and turns it over. And really, ever after that, like, it was just hard to get excited about anything if you're a Tennessee fan offensively. So I think it's important. It's important to get the win, no matter how you get it. If you're Tennessee on Saturday, like if the game played out the exact same way that the Florida game did, you'd sign up for that right now if it was Tennessee.
Million
just get
times
the win
out of a million.
But I do think, like, if you could get out to a fast start offensively, that would send the crowd into a frenzy on Saturday if you can do that if you're Tennessee. Like, if you go out there and you're just 3 and out immediately, it's like, oh, God, here we go again.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. And then the defense, I think, can get that crowd going, get a 3 and out, get a sack, something like that. But it's like right now the Tennessee fan is excited to watch the defense, right? And then it's like, please, offense, do something. So the offense has the potential to take the air out of a crowd the way it's playing right now.
Yep. I'm interested to see what sort of adjustments, how much different the offense looks, or if it's the same. Because if it's the same, that probably doesn't bode well for Tennessee coming up on Saturday. We'll get a lot more into Tennessee and Alabama coming up tomorrow on the program as well. Big game coming up for the Vols on Saturday at Neyland Stadium. And, Joe, a big game tonight for the Nashville Predators against the Edmonton Oilers. Number one, I mean, when Edmonton comes in, it's a big game anyway, given the star power and the quality of team that they have. And now the Predators are off to an 0-3 start. So they're looking for win number one. Right now, there are 2 teams in the National Hockey League who have not yet picked up a point this year. The Nashville Predators and the Colorado Avalanche. That's it. Those are the only 2 teams that have not picked up a point so far this year in the NHL. Avalanche last night fall to 0-4 after a regulation loss to the Boston Bruins. So Avs are 0-4, Preds are 1-3, and narrowly avoiding this list the other night was Edmonton, who got an overtime win against Philadelphia. But a big game coming up for them tonight.
Yeah, and probably good that Edmonton got that win, right?
Probably so.
I definitely would not have guessed that this would be the situation. As you've mentioned with Colorado, are they just going to have an issue all season in goal?
I think they might, as I mute myself.
Their goalie's struggling so much that you got your mic muted. The Preds, Brunette he's early on. I get it. You know, it's like, hey, it's time to start playing. Let's go. He seems to be a little bit perturbed.
He does seem to be a little bit perturbed. And I spoke with Brunette yesterday. They did not practice yesterday, had like team meetings and went over some things, but did not actually get on the ice yesterday. So a full skate coming for them this morning. We'll talk to Todd Richards here in just a few minutes about the game against Edmonton tonight. But, you know, obviously there's been a lot of shuffling of the lines. There's been a lot of, you know, changing of things that Burnett's trying to figure out exactly where to put some of these guys right now. And I talked to him about that yesterday, and he brought up like the struggles that they've had really generating any momentum that way. And I asked him basically, like, did you expect this early in the season, particularly with Stamkos and Marchessault, and trying to find them a role and a spot on this team? I thought his answer was interesting. Here's what Andrew Burnett had to say yesterday.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that would keep you up a little bit in the summer, trying to figure out how they're going to fit, where they're going to fit, who they're going to fit with. So, yeah, I think, you know, when you make changes, it's never easy. And obviously players to their stature and how decorated they've been and to fit them in. So it's going to take a little time. But in saying that, you know, I still believe there's another level we can get to as a group. We have to sort of create an identity. We're not what we were last year. We have to find out who we are this year. And last year took 40 games to figure that out. And hopefully this year doesn't take that long. And you got to start figuring out pretty quick here.
What did you learn about that experience last year when it did take a good ways into the year for you guys to get that? Is there anything you can take away from that and apply to make it quicker this year?
Yeah, I think experience always helps. I think you look back and how we handled it and how we did things. It wasn't perfect. It took a little while. It took a little understanding on both sides to how we get there. And I think we're trying to figure that out right now. Hopefully the process, if I learned anything, hopefully the process doesn't take as long as last year.
So we've talked about this a lot. It took them a long time last year to figure out the way they needed to play. You know, he's talked after basically every game so far, and summer hockey is kind of the way he's phrased it. Like there's too much summer hockey in the game, which essentially means like they're not doing enough to get to the hard areas. They're relying a little bit too much on skill and not enough on the work that it takes to get there. And, he called it fire wagon hockey the other night is what they're trying to do.
I love some fire wagon hockey
too.
But yeah,
sometimes it can be problematic. He's talking about forging an identity there. I do wonder, like, how quickly can he get him to that spot this year? It is a different team. Like it probably will take on a different identity than the one last year had, just because there's more skill, right? Like there's more skill on the roster. There's more options offensively. They're not going to play exactly the same way as last year's team played. My question is, like, how quickly can you figure it out, right? I mean, last year it took 40 games, and it was more than just the identity. It was the system last year too. Most of these guys know the system. So how much can you expedite that this year is going to be, I think, the big question for Andrew Burnett over this next little stretch.
And remember, I mean, even in those 40 games as they're trying to figure it out, they still had some good stretches and some wins and stuff. Like they have too many good players in this team to, even while they're figuring it out, not win some games.
Yeah.
You got to do that. So start there. I don't know. Like, is there a concert they all really want to go to here that, that Barry Trotz can say, no, you will not go?
May need to find one.
Yeah, right.
Start looking around the country.
What do we have coming up here?
Yeah.
Got anything coming up? I mean, were they with Keyser at what was it? Souls of Mischief or whatever at the Ryman, What was the name of that concert?
That was just last night, The Sacred Souls.
The Sacred Souls.
Did you see any Preds?
That's what it was.
I did not.
Okay.
No.
Well, maybe
maybe
they wanted to, and Trot said, no, go to your room.
You will not go to the Ryman tonight. I'm interested to see, like, tonight, sneaky big game. Like, you need to – it'd be good to come away with a win, and particularly if you can do it against Edmonton tonight, I think you're feeling pretty good about yourself.
Yeah, this is the type of game. I know they've started slow too, but like we know what they are, right? So this is the type of game that you play well, you put some things together, win this game, you feel much better.
No doubt.
You put that start, you brush it aside,
and if you lose,
well, yeah,
then a little bit of
the clock's ticking.
Yeah, let's see, a little bit of urgency starts to creep in at that point. Probably should be there at this point right now. We'll have Todd Richards, Predators assistant coach, join us on the program coming up next. We'll get into the matchup with the Oilers with him. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Thursday morning. Preds taking on the Edmonton Oilers tonight at Bridgestone Arena. Puck drops 7 o'clock, pregame 6 o'clock here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in a Predators assistant coach, Todd Richards. Todd, good morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning, guys.
Really appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So, Todd, obviously, and Luke Shen was talking about this a little bit yesterday, the results have not gone your way to this point. It is still very early in the season. So what's the message to the group tonight against Edmonton as you guys are searching for win number one?
Well, I think when you're in this profession, it's always about the improvement and getting better. And, even when things are going well, it's a little bit easier to play. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to coach. But it's always about improving and getting your game better, and keep building it. So that's what the message is keep going. There's some good things you do in the game. There's some things, it's early. You got some new players in. Everyone trying to kind of figure out systems and roles and those types of things, and combinations is another thing. But trying to get everybody just on the same page, so everybody's what the guy next to you is doing out on the ice makes your job a little bit easier. So it's just trying to keep hammering that home and getting everybody, kind of dialed in systematically and how we want to play.
So we've talked, Todd, some about Andrew Burnett has used the term summer hockey a bit. You kind of transitioning from just kind of skating around out there, shooting the puck and actually getting into those hard areas, being more physical. What does that mean to you, and how much summer hockey still needs to be, I guess, removed from the game?
Well, it's when you're playing summer hockey, when you're warming up and getting ready for the start of the season, there's lots of, turning, winning hockey is really hard hockey. Stops and starts, it's blocking shots, it's taking hits, it's giving hits, it's a lot of those things, that I just said that you don't necessarily do in summer hockey, or sometimes even in practices, where you're kind of avoiding teammates. But it's that hard hockey of those little things. And because when you're doing the swings and you aren't finishing checks, it allows the opponents to get to certain positions on the ice and beat you to those areas. And I think it was Sean Payton years ago talking about the Saints and how those inches make a big difference if you get on the right side of that. And it's no different in hockey in today's game. If you're, 6 inches behind somebody and they have you beat, to the inside or going down to your end, could be a scoring chance, could be a goal. And a lot of times it could be a penalty. So it puts you in vulnerable positions. And on the flip side of that, that's what you want to do to try to create offensive opportunities, to try to draw penalties. So, those little inches of little turns versus stops and starts and finishing a check versus not finishing a check become really important.
So, Todd, through the first 3 games, we've seen, Stamkos has gotten a lot of really good looks. Forsberg's generated some good looks. The numbers, underlying numbers, would suggest right now that maybe you guys aren't getting rewarded the way you should be for some of the looks that you've created. Overall, are you happy with the looks you're generating offensively? Is there room for improvement there? How do you view the offensive part of this right now?
I agree. I think there's been some good looks. There's no doubt. Where it's just been, a shooter versus their goalie, and it hasn't gone in. We've had some good volume of shots, but as a coach, when you go back through the film and you start breaking it down, that's where you have to be realistic with how the team is playing. And for sure, there's good things in the game, but there's not enough good things, to, there might be 1 or 2 games, where you deserve the win, whatever it is. So there's no doubt our record should be better than, 3 losses. We could maybe have a overtime loss in there, maybe an overtime win in there. But again, when you go back through the film, there's areas that we have to improve on. There's areas that we have to get better at. And when you do that, you're going to win more consistently.
So the Edmonton Oilers Also, there's some other teams. Of course, Colorado's out there. They're looking for a win, too. Edmonton got one, but they had a little bit of a slow start, too. How is this team? We know the greatness of this team. How are they different from last year, though?
Well, they still have number 97.
They do.
And 29 on their team. So, it's early yet to say, and I haven't watched them enough to say like, this is different, this is different, this is different. The one thing that they have is 97 can make things really different for you, when the puck's on his stick. And obviously he's got good, complementary players, and 29 is a great player as well. So, you really have to do a good job. It's probably no different than, the old basketball days. Michael Jordan's on the court, you got to try to keep the ball out of his hands as much as you can. But to think you're going to do that all game is a bit unrealistic. So what we have to do is, as a group of five, is be really good at checking those guys. And by checking, I'm not talking about a physical, going into him and hitting him into the boards. I'm talking about being tight to him, challenging when pucks are on his stick, and just making things difficult for him, when he's on the ice, because he's an exceptional player, and, one-on-one, he can beat most players in the NHL. So it's going to take a combination and a group effort to, contain him, hopefully shut him down a little bit. But there are other pieces that they have that make them a really good team.
Todd, I know that they've not played necessarily together all that much. It's been more of a situational basis when they've been out there together. But Brady Shea and Roman Josi, the skating ability that both of them have when they are together, and when they're out there in some situations for you guys where you want them together, what are the skating ability of those two players do for you guys in terms of that combination and the options on the back end there?
Well, the other thing it does is, you're right about the skating. They both are great skaters. Brady's got some straight ahead speed, straight where he can close, defensively and kill plays. Roman's got some shiftiness to his game. He's a great skater, but he has that ability to beat somebody one-on-one. So that's kind of what the skating can do. Both of them can beat guys up the ice, and hopefully create some odd man opportunities there. You watch how teams are scoring and scoring off the rush. For the most part, it always comes from their defensive zone, and having, those elite skaters on the back end, hopefully, whether it's anticipation or just outright skating somebody down the ice, or creating an odd number off the rush, and then hopefully we're generating. But the other thing that it provides a little bit in the offensive zone is two left-handed shots on the back end. And when Roman is playing that right side, when the puck comes up top to, if it is Brady who's out there playing with him, he's a lefty. It's easy to swing it over to Roman, who's already in that shooting position where he can look to one-time pucks. And obviously we know what kind of shot he has in that position. So it's their skating ability, escapability, but it's also sometimes just as simple as we got two left shots up there, which makes it difficult on teams when the puck goes up the boards to the left defenseman and he slides it over to our right defenseman who is, ready to shoot the puck.
Well, Todd, we're looking forward to the game tonight. Appreciate so much you taking time to be with us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, guys. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Predators assistant coach Todd Richards, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. A couple of interesting points there. Like, he breaks down, some of the nuts and bolts of it, the X's and O's, the Shea and Josi pairing. They've used it at times this year. It's pretty clear, like, those two guys together can be a problem just with their skating ability. I don't know if there's a defenseman in the league that skates quite like Josi, just in terms of his explosiveness and his ability to create separation, particularly through the neutral zone. Shea can move, and Shea's 6'3" and like 220 pounds, and he moves well. Like that's kind of the one thing that stood out to me about those two together is I think that gives you a lot of options offensively, the way that those two can move, and defensively, Yoshi's always been a good defender. Shea is rangy, and they take up a lot of room out there. It's been fun to watch when those two have been together. They haven't been together all that much, which I'm interested to see as the season goes on. How much does that change? But when they have been together, it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, and as we talked about, if at some point, like, does the math change in general at some point if Stastny comes back into the picture? I mean, I know at this point, who knows? But if that does happen, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Is it just as simple as, okay, then Fabro's out?
Well, and eventually at some point, whether it's Stastny or Delgado or whoever, like they can't go through the whole year with just 6 defensemen. Like they're going to have to bring somebody up at some point, be that injury or just be that like you need another option at some point too. So you don't necessarily have to do that right now. Everybody's healthy and you're trying to settle in here, but like Delgado, good player. Like he's not a top 4 NHL defenseman or anything,
He
but
can play.
He can play in the league. I think they're really high on Willsby and what he did last year in Milwaukee. So they have some options. Look, the Stastny thing is a little strange. Like I don't really know what. I mean, Trotz has been asked about it. They've kind of left it with its personal reasons, and if it's personal reasons, they're probably not going to get a whole lot of detail into that until I guess they absolutely have to. But at this point, he's been gone over a month.
I mean, he was one of the guys I was really excited to see the
same
steps he would take after what we saw last year. He's promising.
Yeah, I thought he was for sure going to make team, and then could play an interesting role with it as well. So I have no idea what's going to happen on that front. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll have Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports coming up at 8 o'clock. The Rob Rant coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
We talk about this a lot. Probably needs repeating and reminding every day. The internet is not real life. Very strange place, and there's very strange people on the internet.
It's raining. It's awful out here.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rob Rant here on Robby and Rexrode. You can check it out every morning, either the Rob Rant or the Rex Rant. Fight on, Trojans. In the background here.
It's a good fight song.
Not bad. Not a bad game either over the weekend between Penn State and USC. I was in studio preparing for the Predators and the Red Wings on Saturday night on the road game broadcast. And that game was on in here. Great game. Penn State gets the win in overtime. A nice Big Ten Classic matchup between Penn State and USC. So I was not aware of this on Saturday. I don't know how many people have seen this in the aftermath of it. So apparently USC offers this special package, which is kind of, indicative of where we're at in modern day college football. A lot of trying to make as much money as possible. It's called the Ultimate Trojan Experience. And basically what it does is it allows, if you pay a certain amount of money, and the price, from what we can gather, seems to range based on opponent anywhere from like $1,300 to $1,800. So I don't know specifically what the price was for the Penn State game, but somewhere in that neighborhood. So a pretty significant amount of money. But essentially what it allows you to do is you and another guest get to be escorted on the field an hour before kickoff. And then as the team, USC, is walking from the locker room down to the tunnel to take the field, you have the opportunity, if you've bought the package, to run out on the field with them, like you're running behind the football team. The problem with this is there is no, at the moment, designation of who you have to be rooting for when you do this. So because of that, Jordan Mott, who is a Penn State fan, paid this money. I don't know how much he paid, but it was clearly over $1,000. And put on a Penn State tank top and hat and ran out of the tunnel with USC on Saturday. So he recorded himself while he's doing this. So you've got the USC football team coming on the field to start the game. And behind them is this dude in a Penn State tank top just yelling, "We are Penn State!" right behind them as they're running out on the field. It's hilarious. Like, it's pretty funny to watch him run out just yelling at the USC football team and the crowd behind them coming on this. And it got me thinking about this. Can you imagine something like this happening in the SEC? Like, I think sometimes there'd
be violence.
People around here sometimes make a little bit too much of that. Well, it's just a little bit different in the SEC. Like, there are good programs and good fans all over the United States of America. USC's a good program. I'm not sure they got great fans, but a good program for USC. But I just thought to myself, like, Alabama and Tennessee is coming up on Saturday. Can you imagine Tennessee offering a package where you could run out on the field with them through the tee and like selling it to some Alabama fan that just runs behind them through the tee? It would be unthinkable. And this is a situation to me where USC, you've got a great history. A lot of great players have come through there. You've won a lot of national championships. It's been a minute since you've done it, but you've won a lot of national championships. Have a little bit of pride. Like, just take it. I know that you're all about the almighty dollar and the money. Have a little bit of pride and maybe get kind of, an establishment, a clause in there of, yeah, you can do this if you're a USC fan. We don't want guys in Penn State tank tops running out behind our football team. The video's hilarious. USC, sometimes the money's not quite worth it. I think this is probably a situation where that's the case.
Yeah, you showed me the video. It's pretty awesome.
It's pretty hilarious.
I mean, I get it would be embarrassed. Like, you guys suck. Yeah!
We are Penn State. Like the USC quarterback, 3 places in front of him, just running in front of him. It's
like,
awesome.
Stop it, man. Hey, is it possible that motivation and also the sort of getting in the heads of the Trojans is why Penn State came back and won that game? I can't prove that it's not.
I can't either.
So they need to do something like the Preds, and the Preds aren't alone. but the Preds are the local team, right? With some of the ticket buying, right? You have to figure out area codes. You figure out. So Tennessee has had people pay to run through the T, right?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure that has happened. And I know it's like one of their top boosters did it, right? In fact, I think I actually wrote about him in the Tennessean many years ago and he paid a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like, so obviously they know him.
Right.
But if you're going to do something like this, first of all, like that's not that like,
is it worth the amount of money that you pay for that?
The revenues, like the budgets for these teams for USC is probably about 180 million.
Yeah.
So this $1,500 is what's it getting you? Get some extra, cream cheese, the bagels. Like,
is it going in somebody's NIL fund? Like, I don't know. Like
like this is like the third string long snappers NIL
like
for the year.
First off, the fan wrote on Instagram, quote, "We 1000% did not expect for them to allow us to participate." They said they've never had an opposing team's fan sign up for the experience. It was absolutely incredible. That's what he wrote on Instagram.
That's fantastic. I mean, the thing is, I bet you, I'm surprised here we on Thursday and haven't heard anything, but like USC is going to do something, right? They'll be like, from now on, it must be Trojans fans.
They have to.
Like, but here's the thing. If they're not going to check you, but they're just going to be like, you have to be a Trojan fan, the next thing is you show up in the Trojan gear and you rip it off.
The old, like reverse Trojan horse.
There you go.
How about that?
Nice.
Yeah.
Good job.
I watched Troy yesterday. So it's fresh on the brain.
Is Notre Dame play at USC this year? Is that game at USC?
I think it is. Yes, because
perfect opportunity.
It is because the current price to be able to do this for the Notre Dame game is $1,800. So they're charging the big bucks for that one. So I'm sure if they don't change this policy, there are multiple Notre Dame fans out there. Like I could see like Vince Vaughn being like, "Yeah, I'll pay $1,800 to run out behind the USC team and just yell at them through the tunnel."
Yes, and thank you, Matt Nashville, Thunder Thornton. That's exactly Thunder Thornton, baby. We're running beside the flag holder. But yeah, that's one of those like, what if Tennessee had offered this up and you had a rando Bama fan rolling through there?
But this is a rant. USC's got to have a little bit more, pride than this to allow this to happen, even if the money is there. This is also one of those things that makes college football the greatest thing on the earth. Like this does not happen in any other sport.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty great. But yeah, I mean, USC, in the Pac-12, you could get away with crap like this, but now, you're in the Big Ten now.
Got to step it up a little bit.
Let's get serious here.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. We'll get his thoughts on all things Titans and the National Football League as well. Busy week in the NFL. A lot of trades going down. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. And as we do every Thursday morning, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in our buddy, Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. Charles, good morning. How are you?
What's going on, gents? How you doing this morning?
We are awesome. Rexrode is fully rested up from the beach vacation last week that he took. He's ready to go.
Yeah, got some pictures. I'll send you some pics, Charles. Me on the beach.
Yeah. We didn't talk about you at all. Just taking a little vacation right in the middle of the heart of football season and everything else going on. Nothing like a little.
Kuharski definitely did not bring that up.
Fall break is a Tennessee phenomenon. I don't know, man. I just do what I'm a Tennessean. What do you want me to do?
I don't know. I was working with a couple other Tennesseans that day. I don't know what you want me to do.
I work hard, Charles.
There's that.
Rest.
There's that. So, Charles, speaking of Tennesseans, not going well for the Tennessee Titans right now. And I said earlier on the show this week, I'm officially out on Levis. I know that we've talked about examples around the league of other players surfacing elsewhere and becoming good quarterbacks, and maybe that does happen with him somewhere down the road. Personally, I'm out on Levis. I've seen enough at this point to make my determination. I don't necessarily expect the Titans to agree with that, but as you watch him play, as you watch this team play, as you talk about this team with other people around the league, what comes to mind, and what do you make of just the ineptitude that we continue to see on the offensive side of the football?
Well, I think the way I kind of look at it is look at Drake May. Okay, go in and look at the Patriots offense in week 5, and then look at the Patriots offense in week 6. And, obviously Jacoby Brissett he's a backup quarterback in the NFL. He's going to be a spot starter at times. He'll have a nice, solid, long career. He has had a long career. That's what he is. So, I want to be careful making the comparison from one week to the next, but May stepped into a situation with the Patriots. Offensive line is absolutely destroyed. I think there are 2 reasons why they ended up starting him, which I didn't agree with initially. I thought, why are you going to roll him out there? The line is as bad as it's been all season long. It progressively got worse, and now you're making the decision to roll him out under the assumption that, he's turned some kind of a corner where it comes to the absorption of the offense or whatever else you're seeing in practice. And I think part of it had to do with, they probably think the offensive line situation is not getting better, could deteriorate and actually get worse from where it is now. So we're always going to face that problem with them. But then from what I understood, the second factor was there were offensive players, specifically receivers, who were like, we need to get the dude out here. Like, we need somebody to get us the ball. Okay. Like, we need, and I don't think it was a huge knock against Brissett. It was just sort of like the receivers saw this was somebody who could make things happen on offense, spark things. He definitely had the ability to, I think, get the ball to players in positions where they could do something with it. And from what I understood internally, that was part of the Brissett decision, was just receivers were very much in favor of it. So they make the change. I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. He turned the ball over 3 times, 2 picks, a strip sack fumble. One of the picks was an insane interception that I can't even believe this Texans player picked it off. Like, it was wild when you watch it. But when I watched what he did, there was a level of confidence that he had. He hits Demario Douglas at one point with this, it was a slant, right? But he hits him so perfectly with it. Douglas takes it for like a, plus touchdown. That was like 40, 50 yards. I can't remember off the top of my head what exactly it was. He hits Keyshawn Boutte for like a 40-yard touchdown on a post route. The only post route they run the entire game. Perfect ball, right? He hits Hunter Henry. I think it was an out route. All of these, there was just a level of confidence watching him throw the ball. There was when he made mistakes, he didn't. That was another thing too. I'm like, okay, is this where he goes in the tank? Is this where the wheels come off? It didn't happen. And now it's only one game, and he could be awful the rest of the season. I could look like an idiot. But it concerns me when I see certain guys step in, and immediately you see a spark, which I guess that did happen with Levis too. I remember Levis's first start thinking, okay, wow, here we go. And it was a really big game. but it progressively, especially this year, you've just seen progressively one moment after another him not have the ability to respond, to get some sort of traction. And especially with the skill position pieces, they are much better in Tennessee than they are in New England. And, so that to me is one of these examples where I look elsewhere and I'm like, is this situation worse? Yes. Is there every reason for this guy to fail in this moment? Yes. And then he doesn't. And, so it's obviously it's not a perfect 1-for-1, but, I think after a while you're just like, to me, and I know Joe disagrees with this, I think you got to pull back a little bit. And I actually thought against Indianapolis in a bad defense. Let me ask you guys. I mean, don't you think offensively it was clear that there was a limitation on that playbook, like a limitation of exposure? Like, didn't you feel like?
Yeah, we've been talking about that like all week.
Yeah, they were protecting him, right? I mean, that's what it felt like. They're starting to limit, potential for him to make mistakes. And I'm not saying that means he's done, but that's definitely a sign that they're going back to the drawing board and trying to figure out, okay, how can we change the dynamic here to give him a chance for at least some limited success and then hope to build on that. It's a tough, position to be in, but realistically, most quarterback draft picks it doesn't work out. And so if it doesn't, I know it would be disappointing for Titans fans, but that happens all across the league with multiple guys. Even with the success of the rookie class this year, which I think has been remarkably successful so far, the 4 guys who have started, I guarantee all 4 of those guys aren't going to make it. Like there's going to be some failure within that group, and then we'll see what happens with Penix and McCarthy. I think now, if you're a Titans fan and it gets worse than 1-4, you start focusing on what does the next, quarterback draft class look like.
Yay!
Yeah, I hate to make this joke, but it should bond Tennessee fans to Lions fans. I remember covering the Lions, and one day it was Marty Mornhinwegen's first year. They start 0-2, and this was back before social media. This is when they had message boards, right? And it's 0-2, and I'm sitting in the like the little reporter's cubby or whatever, and I'm looking at one of the message boards, and there's a Lions fan who said, and this is 0-2, this is mid-September. He says, "Man, I really hate this downtime before the draft."
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
that's the Lions experience, 100%. They're 0-2, it's over. Let's start thinking about the draft.
Well, let's go there because, first of all, my God, like, does Dan Campbell just hate Jerry Jones? That's one thing I'd love to know because he's seriously trying to get everybody but the long snapper a touchdown.
Yeah.
But also the Lions, I mean, they look pretty freaking good, but now they've lost their best defensive player. So I proposed just as a possibility, Harold Landry, as the Titans, as they're headed toward being sellers, of course. I mean, now the question is, you're going to sell off someone you still think can be good for a few years when you can't just wait forever to be good. But I proposed Harold Landry, and I said, if I'm the Titans, I'm not doing this unless I get a first back, which I know sounds rich for a Harold Landry, but the Lions could be desperate here. There's also Myles Garrett, there's Max Crosby, and Mark Davis is talking about no way we're trading him. Also, Tom Brady's going to train all of our quarterbacks. But how do you see that playing out? And do you think that my idea has any validity to it?
I would love that for the Lions. I really would. And I'd love it for the Titans if you could get a first out of Landry. It's rich, and the one thing that gives me pause, and I mean, I guess the Lions at this point, they just signed Billy McNeil. They're doing deals with everybody.
Yeah.
Apparently they're not worried about finances no matter what, but they've got, like, Hutchinson is I think he gets extended this offseason despite the gruesome leg injury. I think he's the rarer defensive end who after 3 years gets treated like a quarterback, where it's like, we're not going to wait for 4 years to do you. We're going to extend you after 3. And so there's that in play. They already have to do a big extension with him. I wonder if Landry were dealt, whether or not he would want a contract adjustment or not, because he's still got a couple years left on his deal that are it's not like the paycheck's horrible, but I mean, he could probably push if he got dealt and say, hey, I want a little extra money kicked into my deal, or, you know, some guaranteed money that's not there. I want that put into the deal. So I think that could complicate it. But really what I think complicates it is that Hassan Reddick at this point with the Jets, you give him for a ham sandwich. Like, the Jets are so up a creek with him, and it's so nasty. And I know the Lions checked in on Reddick as soon as he changed representation. Obviously got dumped by CAA, and Drew Rosenhaus picked him up, and they're doing everything they can to trade him. I think Reddick is probably at very best, they're probably looking at getting like a fourth that graduates into a third, which is similar to what, you know, they gave up to Philly to get him. And I think Reddick now being where he is at this point in the season, I don't know that he necessarily pushes for his contract to be redone the way he was with the Jets. So, you know, Reddick, it's just ultimately going to be a cheaper option on the table than Landry. I would much rather have Landry. But again, it's just all about what ultimately do you have to give up at this point. And I don't think Reddick's the only guy either. Like in a perfect world, do I think that they could try to make a run for like a Max Crosby and go, okay, let's figure out financially how we can do this and maybe have Crosby and Hutchinson long-term. That is a absolute pie in the sky. I mean, you'd have to hire like 3 more cap people at that point to try and figure out
Myles Garrett.
How are we going to, yeah, I mean, like Miles is another guy, but those were, so I reached out to somebody of the Raiders and I was like, you know, is there any shot that the Lions would have at Crosby? And because I don't think he's like Mark Davis's favorite Raider ever, I think. And I don't think Mark Davis would deal him, but I asked this individual, I said, well, you know, what do you think? And he said, I think Mark would never do it. However, he's like, if Max were to demand a trade, like he was like, basically Max would have to pull a Devontae and be like, I have a calf. Like, I have a calf. I'm not playing anymore. And, you know, figure it out behind the scenes, tell him, figure out, you know, deal me. And then like Crosby would be I mean, you're talking multiple firsts, like a massive, like he would get almost anybody in the league, I think at this point would give up 2 firsts plus, maybe 3 firsts for him, you know, at this stage. Like that's the kind of level of player I think he's considered. So, but yeah, I mean, and plus there's time to poke around. I think they also are smartly going to go, okay, well, let's see how we look. We have more time to get additional games under our belt. Dallas might just be an outlier. They looked fantastic defensively against Dallas. But Joe, I mean, I'm with you. I think up front, I just don't see how it doesn't change. He like Hutchinson last year, he was good. This year he was great. I think he is absolutely the guy that flips the switch on that offense or that defense up front. They already had defensive injuries up front coming into the season that were problematic. I think they have to do something, but I don't know that it, you know, necessarily they want to run out there and burn a first. But also, I will say this, like, if you're going to do it now, because your window is now. Absolutely. Yes. This is your Super Bowl window. So go ahead and like burn that first. Burn it now, because you can't let this close or just assume, like Campbell said last year, you may not be here, you know, next year, and he's got to feel like that right now.
So Charles, you bring up Devontae there. Now that the trade has gone down, you got the Jets at 2-4 with, I guess, Devontae Adams trying to come in and help save their season here. Amari Cooper goes to Buffalo, who the Titans will see coming up on Sunday. What do you make of those 2 moves?
Well, they were both. The Jets and Adams has felt like something that was going to happen forever. Like Adams and Aaron were like, they never stopped texting each other. Like their friendship. And I don't even want to say it was like a real rocky patch, but I think Aaron was surprised. I think Aaron thought when he did his extension in Green Bay that Adams was going to come in behind him, do his extension. They were going to end up, you know, being there together. And Adams was like, nope, I'm good. I'm tired of waiting in line for this. I'm going to dip and I'm going to the Raiders, and they're going to blow out my salary. And, you know, I get to play with Derek Carr. And I think Rodgers he would have never said it publicly, but when you talk to people close to him, they were like, yeah, he was surprised by that. And he was, you know, he was a little upset. But not for, I think he was happy to see Adams get paid, but he was just like, I thought we were going to do this together here, that, you know, all the chaos and kind of ruckus we raised in Green Bay was to get it done here. And then when it didn't, the fact that Adams kind of did it without telling Rodgers, it even surprised Rodgers. So I think once that wore off a little bit, the two, from what I was told, they maintained contact all this time. Once Carr was out with the Raiders, Adams, even though he did everything publicly to say the right things, it was clear he wanted out of there, particularly when they brought in Garoppolo. I was told inside the Raiders organization that it was clear that Adams was like, you really, like, I came here to be with this guy. Like, this is like that. I think that was the straw that kind of broke the camel's back there when Josh McDaniels brought in Garoppolo. And the plan was they were going to trade him last offseason, but then the regime got fired. Dave Ziegler, the general manager, Josh McDaniels both get fired, but they had planned to trade him this past offseason. So that gets remixed once they get ousted. But he and Rodgers never stopped talking to each other. And every time we go through the Jets, it was clear the Jets were like, yeah, we can add this guy. Like, as soon as the price is where it needs to be, we can add this guy. Well, the price wasn't where it needed to be, but the desperation was. It was clear Rodgers wanted to add that additional piece. I have no idea how it'll affect the offense. I really don't. I mean, to me, there's elements of it that don't make sense because I still think he's an intermediate to deep guy, and they've had issues. Rodgers is getting rid of the ball so fast. I'd be curious to see how exactly they're going to fold him into that offense and where they're going to get him the ball. Because, I mean, like, even Garrett Wilson, most of the stuff Garrett Wilson's been doing there has not been super developed routes because they just don't have the opportunity. Aaron's like, I got to get this thing out. So that doesn't surprise me at all. The Bills won. I knew the Bills were shopping for a receiver for a while. They were thin already. Keon Coleman, they're still trying to make the X thing work with him. I still think he would be better as a big slot. But Cooper is a true X. You bring in, the price is where it needed to be. He's playing horribly though in Cleveland. I'll say that. Like, his play had dropped off significantly. I felt like every Browns game I watched this year, I'd see a horrendous drop from him. And that's not his thing. He's a hands guy. He's a hands and routes guy. He can do that. And but yeah, part of me wonders if he had just grown tired of what was going on in Cleveland. Was like,
having to catch Deshaun Watson passes. Yes, I would.
Yeah, I mean, losing the confidence of it, just being like, and he had spates of that, I thought, in Dallas, where you were like some games where you're like, man, he does not seem completely mentally checked into this game right now. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Buffalo and you see the high end version of him, what's left of that. I will tell you this, two other teams that are shopping hard right now. Pittsburgh is trying really, really hard to add to the wide receiver room, and the Chiefs are absolutely like hammering the market. And when I talk to people leading into and coming out of the Adams trade, I was told, like, by multiple people, watch the Chiefs and the Steelers. Like, they're going to be the next team. They're absolutely going to add before the deadline at some point. Different types of players, though. I think the Steelers are looking for, they really want an adult in the room. Like, they need, like, Pickens is just
like DeAndre Hopkins, for example.
I mean, I think Hopkins would fit. Like, if you're talking about like a sort of a higher end acquisition, I think if you're talking like mid-level acquisition, like an Adam Thielen from the Panthers, I think is a possibility. I think the Chiefs are just looking for talent. They're like, let's just go get the best guy we can possibly get, which is why I think you see a lot of people who are connecting Hopkins to the Chiefs. And so, those will be other guys. I think, look, the Bengals they're not going to do another tag on T. Higgins. So I think you're going to see T is going to be a guy that's going to be available. You're going to see,
even if they turn it around, even if they they're hanging on the fringe right now.
So here's the thing. If they turn it around, remember, you got till November 5. So they really have to show that what you've seen is what is going to happen, the remainder of the season, plus Burrow factors. Those are the two things that I think complicate this, because they're not going to deal with Burrows you're not dealing with this guy. He just got back in the offense. Look at what the offense looks like. Look at how I'm playing right now. You can't take this guy away. But I'm telling you, they're not paying him. They're not going to pay. And the only way he gets paid is if they decide they're not paying Jamar Chase and they figure out a way to recoup whatever they can get out of Jamar Chase, and then they slide over to T and they go, okay, well, here's the deal Chase won't take. Where are we at on this? And then he becomes the number one there, and they ultimately end up dealing Jamar Chase. But it's just, I'm telling you, it's the same situation. They're staring at this going, we're not going to pay this. I mean, I think his tag next year would be like 26 million plus. I think if they were to tag him again, it's just because Burrow's flat out told ownership, like, if you don't do this, you're going to have a problem with me. And my long-term future here is going to be up in the air at that point. So I think he could obviously affect it. Mike Williams with the Jets, he's out. Like they're trying to figure out. I think there's even a chance that if they deal Reddick, they could try to screw with a team that's picking up Reddick and say, hey, let's do a package. Like you could take Mike Williams.
Please take Mike too. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean they're trying. It's like a salary offload with him, and obviously Rodgers said what he said after the loss to Buffalo about him not being in the right spot. Which, by the way, I don't know, Rodgers should have said it, but he was right. I mean, right? Mike did not run the route the way it was supposed to be run. Trying to think of who else. There were like 5-6 receivers that Hopkins is a guy that. So here's the thing with Hopkins. If you're the Titans, it's what is the return? So if it's paltry, if you're talking about like a fifth, a team's like, look, we're not giving anything but a fifth. It is what it is. The situation with him and his age. I think you have to ask yourself, is it worth us? Because at that point you're just trying to get out of salary, and is it really worth taking something off the field that maybe helps continue to develop Levis, or at least showcases, you're leaving a piece in place, basically to give yourself potentially to win games, and then obviously to also give yourself an ability to continue to get the most authentic, I guess, report or look at Levis as possible. Whereas if you take him off, it just, anytime you take talent away from a quarterback, I think that messes with the assessment, or it gives you a different kind of assessment. We've already seen that kind of assessment last season with Levis. So you want to add more around him to understand how he'll function with the most talent on the field. I would ask you guys, if somebody offers you a fifth for Hopkins, do you take that?
It's not exciting, but I mean, it's an expiring deal.
At this point, I don't think he's going to be here next year anyway. So I would probably take.
Well, he's not, but I mean, like it's like, what, like, weigh that out. What signal are you sending, right? Like you're basically, you're telling, unless there's someone else on that wide receiver depth chart where you're like, we got to get this guy more opportunities. We have to open up, catch opportunities for this other player.
Burks or
That's
NWI.
one thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, maybe whatever.
No, I mean, I think it's like, I totally hear you, and we've talked about that on the Levis thing. Like, if this is an evaluation of Levis year, then now you take away. Now, of course, nothing is working now. I'd say if the next couple weeks, if they get blown out and Levis continues to struggle, then I think it's just like, you try to recoup some things, right? But maybe if things flip, at least offensively, maybe that makes it a little tougher to do.
That affects it. Yeah, absolutely. Like I do think that's the process you go through weighing and that's why I think November 5th being that date and there being a couple of weeks before we get there is what can change the market pretty significantly. I can't remember what happened. Oh, I remember what happened last year. Denver was going to unload like a ton of guys last year at the deadline. I mean, it was like Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. I mean, it was like everybody in Denver. And then they like won a game. I just remember like something happened closer to the deadline where it was like, oh, that shifted things. And next thing you knew, it was like it completely tightened up. And I heard like, oh yeah, no, Denver's kind of pushing a harder bargain on these guys. They don't seem as willing to soften the price, and it just closed the door. And it was because I think they had some success all of a sudden closer to the deadline. So that can definitely change the picture here. I think Pittsburgh, though, if you're sitting there and you're a Titans fan, you're going, where could they potentially ship like a DeAndre Hopkins? I think Pittsburgh they've been trying to get a wide receiver like all season. I was there in the training camp. They thought they had the Ayuk deal was done. Package was agreed, like 49ers are like, we're just waiting. Like, is all I got to do is say yes, and we close it. And then he just didn't. And they didn't stop after that. They continued to try. They called on Adams, and it was clear Devontae was not going to Pittsburgh. And that's the thing too. Like Pittsburgh, I think they have their own. This Russell Wilson thing, like he's starting again. Like it's just like it was weird, and I don't know if I brought it up last week's show, but it was weird on the Sunday night broadcast. I think it was last week, where not just this past week, over a week ago, where Collinsworth and Tirico were talking about Russ, and I'm listening to him. I'm like, whoa, this sounds like Mike Tomlin told them in production meetings, we're starting that guy again. He's going to get a start, but you can't say that, but we're going to start him. It just from the comments like Collinsworth was making, he was so sure Russell Wilson absolutely is going to be a starting quarterback in Pittsburgh again. And I even commented on it, and people kind of ripped me. They're like, that doesn't mean. I'm like, okay. I think him opening up starting snaps during the course of this week, it could be a Jedi mind trick where you're like, okay, we're going to make it look to Russ like we gave him an opportunity to get this job back, and then ultimately we're going to keep sticking with Fields. I think Tomlin wants to start Russ. I really do. I think he looks at Justin and he says, yes, there's a special aspect of the running dynamic that he brings to the table, but I still think Mike does not believe they are accessing the passing game at the level that they potentially could if Russell Wilson steps in there. I really think he wants to get a look at him. So that's another thing they got to sort out, obviously, too, before the deadline. And I wonder how much that plays into an acquisition, because I can tell you right now, when I brought up Pittsburgh to someone in the Devontae trade, they just laughed. Like this was like 2 weeks ago. They were like, he's not going there in that quarterback situation. They're like, no way, not in a million years. He's not going to go there. That's not happening.
Well, Charles, great stuff, man. As always, appreciate you taking time to be with us, and we will talk to you next week.
Okay, and before real quick, the rant. I cannot believe like any self-respecting program in a million years. Here's the question I have for you, because I have not seen this. Did they know when this person signed up for this? Did they know that he was a Penn State fan?
I think so.
Still went through it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened.
Somebody
got fired, right?
Pocket change. I need to hear from USC this week for sure.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. And you're right. Like I think it's overdone. The SEC is different. I do agree with it. I think it's a little, there's a little too much chest pounding by SEC schools, but at least that would never happen. I can tell you
no
that.
chance.
Damn right.
No chance.
Damn right, Charles.
No, not at all. That's why. I mean, it's even sad that even the Big Ten should be like, come on, man.
Yeah, what are we doing?
This isn't the Foofy Pac-10 here. Like this is, whatever you want to call it. Like
Pac-8.
Yeah, Pac-8, Pac whatever it is at this point. Yeah, that's unbelievable. You should get in on that though.
I agree.
Does the radio station have the budget?
Just send us out there. I'll run out I don't care what colors you put me on. I'll just run out behind USC players and yell at them the whole time. It's fine with me.
You should wear the radio station colors and run out.
There you go.
That's great. I think it's worth that would be worth the advertising alone.
I agree.
Frankly, if I was any business owner, I'd be like, as long as we can get footage of it, of you running out and whatever I want to put on you, let's get that. Let's put Joe back into the hard Tigers hat.
Yes.
Or the hamburger
the hard
or
Tigers
something.
hat and a shirt that was a little too small.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not hard to find those right now.
The Schmedia.
Thank you, Charles. We'll see you next week.
Have a good week.
We'll react to what Charles Robinson had to say there. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Join 102.5, 106.3 The Game and Joe Dubin from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. this Saturday at Hope Fest 2024, a family-friendly festival celebrating hope found in the faith and recovery community. This event will be held at Bethel Church of the Nazarene at 455 Broadmoor Drive in Nashville from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. with free food, games for the kids, mental health and recovery resources that are also available. The Tennessee Titans Alumni Association will be on hand with their vaccination clinic. More details at thegamenashville.com/events. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. So we got some breaking news. Adam Schefter putting it out there that Jamal Adams being released from the Tennessee Titans. Titans are honoring the request of former Pro Bowl safety Jamal Adams for his release. Adams is healthy, looking forward to his next opportunity, is what Schefter put out there. But Jamal Adams released from the Tennessee Titans.
Should I quote tweet that and CC Jeff Simmons?
Yeah, just be like, hey, remember that time you freaked out about people saying this may not work out for the Tennessee Titans?
Who weren't like, oh my God, it's the final piece for a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw TD had a tweet a few days ago about a source, basically that Adams was upset with his role or whatever. Obviously the guy could barely get on the field at all.
Yeah. He's done.
Yeah, he's done. He's done in this league. I mean, he may bounce around, he may latch on another team or whatever. But look, the injury was horrific, and it's probably the biggest thing with him. But that's why you don't get that excited about acquiring Jamal Adams.
How many?
I will say
play for the Titans.
I know one game he had 2.
Okay.
I know he was up for 2 snaps, but it's a low number. But that's like that one, the whole reaction, which again there was no out of bounds reaction I saw. Jeff Simmons' reaction to it, which is just like, why are you even bothering with this? And that was one of those, like, the chef hats on that one.
Yeah.
It was like, guys, but this is, it's like a big name, someone who was formerly a good player gets people excited, but like, pay attention to what actually has been going on in that person's career. He was never going to make a big impact for this team.
He had 2 snaps in the Jets game. He had 17 snaps in the Packer game, and then 1 snap in the Miami game. So that is a total of 20 snaps as a member of the Tennessee Titans.
That 17 surprises me. I don't remember that.
I'm shocked by that.
But that shows you how impactful he was too, because interesting.
20 snaps as a member of the Tennessee Titans for Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where he latches on.
So Dustin says, I thought he was injured, an off-the-field injury. Well, he was put on the NFI list, which again, basically, I think he just wanted out.
Yeah,
that's my read of the situation. Is he wanted out, thought he should have been playing more or whatever, and they disagreed, and so he wants out. I mean, he just it's what it is, man. This is how careers go quickly in this league.
Join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, Derek Mason at Twin Peaks and Cool Springs this Sunday for the pregame show, 9:30 to 11:30. They'll break down the Week 7 matchup against the Bills, give you the latest updates before the game. Pregame show presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. It is time for Pred's Pick to Click here on the program. Be the first caller at 615-737-1025. If you guess a goal scorer for the Predators tonight, you want a pair of tickets to a future Nashville Predators home game. We'll do that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time for Preds Picks to click.
And a shot at the score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game?
Little give and go.
Shoot your shot for a chance to win Preds tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. It's Pick to Click, now on Robby and Rexrode.
It is that time of the day, time for Preds Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode. Preds in action tonight, taking on Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Edmonton Oilers. A standings update in the competition. No change from last time out. Rexrode still a 1-0 lead in the competition over Nick Kieser, myself, and all the listeners, which is technically Paul Kuharski's goal that he scored last week.
He owes me plenty.
He does. He does. With that in mind, let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, John. John, good morning. Thanks for calling in. Who is your pick to click tonight for the Nashville Predators?
Tonight it will be Steven Stamkos.
There we go. John going with Steven Stamkos to get his first as a member of the Nashville Predators. I'm up next in the competition. Stamkos is off the board. I mean, I could go a couple different ways with this. There's one that is obvious and was obvious all of last year, but I got a hunch tonight, Joe. I think Marchessault scoring tonight. So I will go Jonathan Marchessault. Stamkos, Marchessault, the new guys off the board. Rexrode, you're up next. Your pick to click for the Predators.
Well, Cole Smith, you failed me, so I'll go Forsberg.
That he did. Forsberg off the board now. Stamkos.
I had high hopes.
Marchessault, Forsberg off the board. Nick Kieser, your pick to click for the Nashville Predators.
Ryan O'Reilly, give it to me. I think he gets it done tonight on the power play.
How many times will this competition be those exact four names?
Several.
Yeah.
Not always.
Not always. Someone will sneak in a Nyquist. See if we can get
Yossi.
He can get going. Someone will sneak in a Yossi.
Brady Shea's going to get him some goals this year. Got one the other night. So there will be more. Novak's got 2 right now.
I mean, what about sweet Luke E?
Yeah. There's a lot of options.
Forget the kid.
Be nice to even get a win tonight.
Yeah. See if they can. Yeah, that'd be a big win for them.
Would be a big win. Skyler on our text lines asking us if Draisaitl is going to continue his hatred against Nashville tonight. I don't know if he hates Nashville. I think he loves it. He's like,
he should love it.
The Predators. Let's go play them. All right.
Yeah, it's like he's playing, like table tennis here or table hockey. Just,
I'm interested to see. You're never. I don't know if it's possible to shut those guys down, right? They're so good that you just hope that you can limit what they do. It would be a good night to see. One thing I will say, this has been a problem all year, and if it's a problem for them tonight, they're going to get beat by about 9 goals. The odd man rushes that you're giving up, you don't want to give them up to anyone. You especially do not want to give them up to Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So if there's ever an emphasis on making sure that, I know everybody hates the dump and chase and some boring decisions with the puck sometimes, but you can't be turning the puck over tonight and have McDavid and Draisaitl going the other way. That will get you destroyed in a hockey game.
Yeah. So like you've said, details.
Yes.
Gotta be real attentive to details. Todd Richards earlier, some good commentary on McDavid checking, but it's just you have to be always around him. You have to just not give him space, right? Easier said than done.
Much easier.
He finds that tiny little glimpse of it, and all of a sudden it's in the back of your net, and he's number 7 on the ESPN top 10.
I do think this is I don't know if gut check's the right word, but it's an interesting opportunity for them to. You haven't won a game yet. You're 0-3. I think there's some natural urgency that creeps in. And look, in the big picture, the Predators are one of those teams in the Western Conference that is viewed as a challenger to Edmonton. So
absolutely,
an early season look at that. If you're them tonight, I'd lean into that. All right, let's see what we got against these guys. I think there's, a pride in performance that comes along with it too. They need to go out there and play well tonight. And maybe it doesn't result in it. It's possible for you to play really well against Edmonton and still lose. So we've seen that happen a lot, but it'd be nice to see them go out there tonight and execute and play well and do some of the things and stop making some of the mistakes that have just been killing them early in the year.
Yeah, look, this is I expect months from now, I do expect both of these teams. We know Edmonton now, but I expect both of these teams to be among the top teams in the West. So this is an early test, but it is more right now. It is more the cliche of it's more about us. If you're the Preds, it's just find a different level, higher level of play. And Andrew Burnett, first of all, I'm very fascinated to see what the lineups look like.
I am too.
I think it could be a number of different things. He said, what did he say? Everything's on the table, right?
Yep.
And I think this is the appropriate time for a response to show up on the ice now.
I have no idea if this is what it's going to be, but this is the line I'm hoping to see tonight. I want to see Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos together. I figured we'd probably see that at some point this year. I want to see what that looks like tonight. And they actually put those three out there together toward the end of the game the other night, and the game was over at that point. But they had a couple of good looks. I'd like to see that for a game and see what it looks like.
Why not? You
got to get Stamkos going.
You got to get him going. That's a loaded line. Nyquist got to pick it up.
There are a lot of guys got to pick it up. But look, I'm worried about this with Nyquist. And again, we're 3 games in, so we'll see how it goes. And I think he does a lot of things the right way. But you are talking about a guy that at 35 years old last year had a career season. You don't really see that happen very often.
Yeah.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say that might have a steep decline this year. We've talked about that. So we'll see what that looks like. Morning skate coming up here in about an hour and a half. So we'll see what the lineup looks like for the Predators at that point. Joseph, good show. That does it for us today here on the program. We'll see if the Predators win tonight. A lot to talk about tomorrow. We'll get to the Predators, Oilers, Tennessee, Alabama coming up this weekend, Vanderbilt, Ball State, and, of course, the Titans and the Bills. Full show coming up tomorrow. That does it for us today. Jason Big Joe up next. This is 102.5, 106.3 The Game.